Good morning. Today we're continuing our Just 10 series, and we're meant to be, for those who are following the series in your Connect group or something like that, I'm sorry, I've jumped ahead one. We're meant to be doing what we're meant to be honouring your parents, but it's Father's Day next week, so we've decided to swap that around. So today we're looking at the fourth commandment. Who knows what the fourth commandment is off the top of your head? Anyone knows what the fourth commandment is? Fourth commandment is... Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. You know, sometimes this commandment is regarded as being the least important of all, yet it's actually the longest. Perhaps God is trying to tell us something. You know, the fact that it's the longest commandment of them all, maybe He's trying to help us to rethink our attitude towards it. So let's get straight into it. So Exodus 20, 18 to 11. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. 6 days you shall labour and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son, nor daughter, or your male or female servant, or your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth and the sea, and all that is in them. But He rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. I'm just going to pause for a second because I'm really hot. Oh, here we go. Now I'm going. Got my little chicken wings out. Excellent. It's funny, we're talking about rest, and on Thursday when I was starting to prepare for this message, I was out the back, and it was a beautiful day, sitting on my veranda with my book in front of me, totally asleep with the dog laid across me, and my daughter Ali, she comes home, and I hear the door open up, and I wake up, and she said, "What are you doing today? You're obviously having a slack day." I go, "No, I'm actually working." All right. She said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm preparing for the message." She said, "Oh, what are you speaking?" And I said, I'm speaking on rest." And she laughed, and she said, "Well, clearly you're putting it into practice." So lots of practice this week for today's message. Sabbath rest. Who's ever said or heard it said, "If only there was more time in the day"? Or, "I don't know where all the time's gone." Or, "Gee, this week has flown by so fast." No matter how hard we try, we never seem to have enough time to achieve all that we want to do. Interestingly, I think if we actually did have more time, we'd probably just end up burning it up anyway, right? You know, once upon a time, it used to be just workaholics, or those who worked excessive hours, who you just had issues with being busy. But now, these days, the majority of the population in our Western world is addicted to being busy. In fact, it even seems that now people are proud of the fact that they're busy. You hear people say, you ask them, "So, how's your week been?" "Busy." "You're so busy." "I'm busy. I've done this and I've done this and I'm such a busy person." It's like they wear it with a badge. It's like, "I'm so special. I'm so important. I'm so busy." Anyway, maybe it's just me. Perhaps it's because they've built their identity around this idea built their identity around their activities or their work. And this busy life of ours has only increased since the invention of modern technology, which was designed to make our lives easier and less stressful. These days, almost everyone has a mobile phone in their pocket, so they can never miss a call, never miss an email, never miss a text, a post, or even a news story. Growing up, and I might sound old now, but growing up, you'd have to wait for the appropriate time and get in line for the phone, right? It was at a landline. You had to get in line, you had to wait for an appropriate time to be able to use the phone. Messages came in person, mail arrived by post, and news stories got your hands dirty. It came by newspaper, right? Don't get me wrong, I love this piece of technology, and I wouldn't want to go back to those days, but we need to learn to master it and not let it take control or control our lives. In most cases, it's okay, I'm just putting it out there, it's okay not to feel the compulsion to have to answer your phone, or to have to, or have to answer or reply to an email straight away, or a text message. It's actually okay. You know, one of my pet hates is when you go and have a meeting with someone and they're sitting there the whole time. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, that was. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I got your full attention. Fine. Oh. If you want to meet with me, put your phone away. Seriously, it doesn't, unless you're on call or there's something, great emergency, you do not need to be addicted to looking at your phone all the time. In fact, I get so frustrated with my phone sometimes, it's known to fly. Did you know that iPhones can actually do that now? In fact, fly, yeah. My phone has its own frequent flyer points. It flies so often. It's when I'm at home and I'm trying to study or trying to read or trying to do some work or whatever it might be, and it just bing, 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 it's just like, put it out of sight. Some of you may not have realised that, actually some of you will know, you ring me and I don't answer necessarily straight away. I have to say that's, I'm confessing here, that's deliberate. I deliberately put my phone on silent periodically throughout the day. And part of that is so that I can get work done. And so I'm not always just feeling like I have to respond all the time. But another part of that is so that I'm not going to be held captive to it. And I'm not going to be held captive to other people too. Because you set up a precedent where once you start responding and automatically straight away, then there's this expectation people have of you that you're always going to be on call. And so I actually recommend to anyone who feels like, whether it's family, friends, work, who they feel like they have to continually respond straight away, to actually learn to put it on silent or turn it off, because it's actually okay. It's actually okay. We need to, I think this morning I'm going to try and encourage you to go, it's okay to let go of some of these things. Our busyness in life, we've just got so out of control.
But then your kids think you're dead.
Did anyone do that? Then your kids think you're dead. I'm not at that age yet, Ingrid, so I'm not sure they think I'm dead. All right, so where was I? We need to set boundaries because it might end up causing you undue stress. A recent study has shown that Australian workers have reported the highest burnout rates in the world, and that's what I want to talk about today, burnout. We took in, as you probably noticed in this series, we're looking at a modern kind of perspective of the 10 Commandments. But yeah, so Australian workers, the highest percent of burnout rates in the world. An alarming 61% of Australian workers reported experiencing burnout compared to a global average of 48%. With some of the causes of burnout being feeling like they're out of control, lack of recognition, unclear expectations, unreasonable or over-demanding expectations, high-pressure environments, working too much or too hard. And this not only applies to people in employed environments, burnout can affect anyone, every one of you. You know, people in volunteer roles, parents, primary caregivers, students. I went through a list of warning signs with Ali, and she went, yeah, that's me. I went, oh, really? You have to be careful, you might be on the trajectory of burnout. It can affect anyone if you're not careful, provided the right or the wrong environment. Although the fourth commandment is primarily concerned about how we order our time, it specifically highlights the importance of taking a day off a week. There are lots of verses in the Bible that talk about the importance of rest, but today I want to specifically focus on Sabbath rest. And some might even argue that whether it is right for us as Christians to practice Sabbath principles on a Sunday or any other day as opposed to a Saturday, because that's when it was originally practiced, right? The seventh day is the Saturday, not the Sunday. But based on Jesus' interaction with the Jews over the Sabbath rules, it would appear that he doesn't really seem to mind that much. He doesn't get really legalistic about it, and I don't think that we should either. What he does care about, and what we care about, is that we take a day to actually rest. So, into our question. So the topic is, so how does Sabbath rest prevent burnout? Well, firstly, we need to take a day off a week to rest our bodies. And that seems pretty obvious, but a lot of us don't do this. Who's ever done archery? Yeah, quite a few of you have done archery. Well, apparently, it is recommended that if you own a bow, that you don't keep it continually tensioned. Why? Because you risk the bow becoming permanently deformed. With all the constant stress being put on it, it will stay the same shape, bent. And it will become, therefore, less powerful or effective. In a similar fashion, if we remain highly strung, we too become less effective in what we do. Some of the physical warning signs that we might be overstrung are inconsistent sleep habits, exhaustion, appetite changes, frequent health problems, and dependence on alcohol or other substances. Today I'm periodically going to be putting up some warning signs or some symptoms up there today, because I want to send home a message and I want you to go, oh, maybe that's me, or hopefully it's not. But I want to encourage you to do something about it, okay? When we fail to operate according to God's law and properly maintain our body, we run the risk of malfunction. Our bodies are not designed to go, go, go. We are human beings, not human doings. The fourth commandment uses God and his creative activity as an example for us to follow. So I'm going to go back to Genesis 2-3. It says, by the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day, he rested from all his work. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done. You know, you see the words reflected in the fourth commandment, almost word for word, don't you? God rested. He rested on the seventh day. Not because he was exhausted, nor did he cease to be active in the world from that time forward. In ancient Hebrew, the word which we use, which is interpreted as rest, means to conclude an activity. Not completely stop, but conclude. By the seventh day, God's work of creating the heavens and the earth had come to an end, he ceased doing what he'd been doing and focused on enjoying what he had created. Likewise, Sabbath rest does not mean that we should completely stop and sleep away our day, though sometimes that's very tempting, and yes, probably this afternoon I'll crawl up on the couch with the dog, but I'm not going to do it now. I'm not going to do it. Sleep your day away. Rather, it means ceasing to do what we are usually doing, whether it be paid work, voluntary work, home chores, in order to focus our attention on enjoying God's blessings. You know, we deceive ourselves when we think that we need to continually push ourselves, work harder, work longer. But studies have actually shown that people who pace themselves and take time to relax and rejuvenate are generally more effective in the long run. Sabbath rest means taking a day a week, and not just every so often. And I have to say, sometimes I'm guilty of this. Last weekend I took Sabbath in lieu because I went away with my wife and we went to Coffs Harbour because I hadn't been taking my rest. But it should be a day a week to wind down, so to allow our bodies to regain energy so that we might continue to function properly. It also helps our body from getting sick, protects it from injury, and prepares it for a new week. Does your work or weekly commitments rule your life? If you often wake up in the morning just as exhausted as when you went to bed, perhaps something needs to change. Don't be a slave to what you do. Guard your Sabbath. Turn off your devices. Give your computer, your phone, your work tools, your homework a Sabbath too. And seize the opportunity for your body to recover and rejuvenate. Okay, secondly, we need a day a week to recharge our minds and emotions. The World Health Organization recently put out a study stating that keeping ourselves busy all the time not only puts us at risk of experiencing burnout, it puts us at risk of developing or increasing already, what's there, our mental health problems. Some symptoms of emotional or mental health burnout are lack of interest or motivation, forgetfulness, that's me, procrastination, that's also me, feeling sad, irritable or angry, lacking empathy, distrustfulness, being stressed. I don't know if anyone else saw the Four Corners episode last week on the ABC, where they exposed a toxic culture in news outlets that primarily focused on Channel 7. And after speaking to more than 200 people, they discovered that the pressures placed on workers, especially in this case it was women, was so great that it caused many to have mental breakdowns and in some cases even to attempt suicide. Now in the short term, stress is not necessarily bad as it motivates us and helps us to focus our energy, but prolonged stress can literally kill you. I also have concerns about how we overstimulate or overactivate our children, in effect stress them out. It is common for secondary schools to run a lot of outdoor education programs for Year 9 students. That's because that's when they become ratty, or that's when they push the boundaries the most, right? And I've heard of some schools who run activities where they separate the students. They take them out to the bush and they leave them on their own for an hour or so, just without any technology, without the mobile phone, just to sit there and take in nature. That sounds like a list to me. But for some students, particularly those who are overstimulated, those who are always on their devices, or those who are just always active, this can be really stressful. And I've heard of some cases where they've come to get the kids and they're sitting there rocking in the fetal position, absolutely like crying their eyes out because they cannot handle it. They cannot handle it. It's just too much for them. They're crying hysterically. Now, so many of our children these days are overstimulated to the point where they don't know how to slow down or relax or to remain still. We're teaching our young ones from such a young age. This is not right. And it's no wonder that we're seeing increased levels of mental health with even our young children. From infancy, we stick iPads and smartphones in our children's hands to keep them continually entertained. And these electronic nannies may help keep the peace, but this overstimulation comes at a cost. But it's not just our technology that's a problem. In an attempt to give our children a rounded education, parents often enrol their children into a myriad of mind-blowing, fantastic activities that demand ongoing, serious commitment. Add in a child's homework expectations, and there's very little family time left, if at all. Now, weekends used to be a time when families spent time together, relaxing after a hard week of school or work or whatever it might be, but in many cases, it's spent, if you're a parent, you know this, chauffeuring your children from one place to another. Overstimulating and overactivating our children can be quite damaging to their psyche and emotional well-being. We've got to get this balance right. Give them some educational stuff. Give them some life experiences by all means. But encourage you to try and keep that balance. And this might be hard, especially for some kids, because some kids just want to keep go all the time, I understand. But just like adults, our children need downtime too. A common verse often used at funerals is Psalm 23, 1-3. It says this: "The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Do you know you don't have to wait until you die to put this verse into practice? Just putting it out there. We need to take time out each week to recharge our emotions and our minds, to meditate, to pray. And this helps us to see more clearly, to make good decisions and to evaluate our priorities. J.John says, if you don't live by priorities, you'll live by pressures. I know myself that when, there's busy times in your life, we understand, and I just get so caught up in it. And I've got so many things going around in my head, and I've already got the problem of coming up with too many ideas anyway. I try to control all these ideas that are going on in my head. And it just becomes overwhelming. And Liz or someone will talk to me, and I'm like, yeah. What do you say? I just cannot physically process it anymore. There's like this blockage that's going on because I've just overloaded. My little computer in my head is going, overload. We just need to take time out. Do you have a chaotic calendar of activities to manage? Do you prioritise time to declutter your mind and regather your emotions? Finally, we need a day off a week to be renewed spiritually. Once again, some signs that we might be experiencing burnout spiritually are feeling disconnected, hopeless, abandoned, lost, uncertain, overwhelmed, anxious, or feeling depressed. You might find it strange that I put anxiety or feeling anxious or depressed under the category of spiritual health and not mental health. And I'm not referring to specific medical or psychological conditions. Numerous studies, such as one conducted by the National Institute of Health, had discovered a direct correlation between faith and both anxiety and depression. Studies found that as people's faith increased, no surprise here, as people's faith increased, their levels of anxiety decreased, along with feelings of feeling depressed. And we should be surprised by this, as often mental health problems revolve around issues of identity, which, guess what, the Christian faith has an answer to: Jesus. There's so much more to the Sabbath rest than taking a break from your usual activities to do something else to help you relax or unwind or to refocus. And this is at the heart of this commandment. If you bring up the fourth commandment again, it tells us that. I'm just going to jump into a few bits. It says, 10, what is that somewhere down here? It says, the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. Not to anyone else, to the Lord your God. And at the end it says, the Lord blessed the Sabbath and made it holy. Made it holy. What is this telling us? It says something about the spiritual aspect of the Sabbath. It is a day set apart. It's a holy day from all other days for us to engage with God, for it is His day, not our day. For the original readers, the Sabbath was designed to point people back to the beginning of creation, when we lived in harmony with God and with each other and with our world. As such, it is to be a day where the burdens of everyday life are put aside so we can focus our undistracted attention to God and enjoy His pleasure and company. For these reasons, the Sabbath was also extended to slaves and even animals who worked the land, making it a day when all stood on an equal playing field. As such, we need to treat it as a holy day, to honour God by doing God-honouring things on that day. We need to treat it differently to every other day in our week, spending time specifically in worship. Worship. Prayer and praise, giving thanks to God for all that He's done and continues to do for us, reflecting on His word, engaging with the Holy Spirit, acknowledging Jesus as Lord over our lives, and connecting with our Christian family. This is at the heart of what it means to have a Sabbath day. And it's not just saying a little pocket here and there. It actually says a day. You want a day. To mix some of these things up, you want a day where you can relax and rejuvenate your bodies. You want a day where you can refocus your mind, and you want a day where you point it and focus your attention to God. I don't know about you, but even this morning, in the worship time, I don't know if you experienced this, but there's this freedom that comes in just worshipping, doesn't it? There's this release that comes in worshipping. You just let go of all your emotions and you worship God. And I think that's the whole point of the Sabbath, yeah? You know, we can put all these other things, you know, body, mental health, emotional stuff. That's all very good and that's all very practical. But it's actually coming to God and just giving it back over to Him. And if we don't do that on a regular basis, where are we going to be spiritually? You know, we can't expect to be functioning properly. We're spiritual beings, and if we're not doing that, then part of who we are isn't being expressed. Like sleep renews our body, and relaxation our mind, worship renews us spiritually. And it means to, do you know what it means, the definition of renew? Do you want to know what the definition of renew is? It says, the definition is to rebuild, repair, restore, revive, renovate, and regenerate. I don't know about you, but I need that regularly. Particularly after a busy week. If you are not taking time out of your week to celebrate the Sabbath rest, what are you doing? Are we worshipping our work or our studies or whatever else we are preoccupied with instead of God? Like God's creative activity, we need 6 days to fill doing what we have been skilled or gifted to do, but on the 7th day, we need to dedicate it to God, to be renewed, to repair our bodies, to restore our health, revive our emotions, renovate our minds, and regenerate us spiritually. The writer of Hebrews says this: do not give up the habit of meeting together, as some are doing. Instead, let us encourage one another all the more, since you see the day of the Lord is coming near. Don't give up meeting together. We do need to meet together as Christians. And I don't know about you, but who likes a little bit of encouragement? Every now and then I like encouragement, and this is what we need to do when we gather as Christians. You know, it's not just about learning, it's not just about worshipping as well. It's actually about encouraging, being together. It's about being with family. You're family. You become family by just the pure fact that we have the common focus, common goals, common objectives, a common love. I understand that for a lot of people, Sunday is a work day. And whilst there are options to do church online, I hate to say it, it's not the same as meeting in person. I know that a lot of churches are still, it became very popular over COVID, and a lot of people are still choosing to do church online. And I understand the ease of doing that. I know someone who tells me that they still do church in their bed, and I go, oh, that's great. But where is the connections with other people? How are you... I have this expectation, and maybe I'm being unrealistic, but I have an expectation of every one of you when you come to church, that you've got a role to do. Sure enough, there's some people up front doing things, there's some people behind the scenes running around doing bits and pieces. But every one of you in your seat have a job to do. And that is to pray for the person next to you. It is to encourage the people around you. That is your job when you come to church on a Sunday. If you're unable to come to church, at least set aside another day of your week, preferably one that coincides with your spouse or a family or other believers. If nothing else, attend a small group or form a huddle. And where possible, continue to connect with the church. You know, we go to a fair bit of effort to put our messages up on YouTube each week for those who miss out on church, or for whatever reason are sick or something like that. But not many people utilise this resource. You know, and yet then people say, oh, we don't know what's going on in the church, or we feel a bit disconnected. Well, let me give you a tip. Look up a YouTube video and watch, and you'll have church news, and you'll get a bit of a vibe about what's going on in the place. Keep updated. If nothing else, if you cannot make it to church, I encourage you to keep updated with what's going on. Look at our website. Look at church news. Look at the, as I said, YouTube videos. Get in contact with people. Form a huddle. Whatever it might be. Continue to make an effort to connect with fellow believers and connect with the church. Now, I don't want to seem like I'm coming across judgmental in saying all this. And I actually think it's really important for people to be here at church, right, on a Sunday. And I said, I don't want to get all legalistic about that, because I know for some people that's actually really hard, and I don't know what you do in your spare time. And I'm ultimately, and you've probably heard me say this lots of times before, I'm not really interested about bums on seats, but I am interested about gathering at some point in time during the week for Christians to gather. Now, we talk about missional communities and community connection activities where we say there's a whole lot of people who are part of our community who we never see on Sunday. That's awesome. They gather, they still gather, and we're still doing things together. As I said, I'm not hung up about Sunday. I think Sunday is actually really, really important, but it's not for everyone, and that's okay. But we need to make an effort of finding a time, one day a week. One day a week, that's all we ask, 1 out of 7, to spend time with others, and with Christian, and with believers and friends and family. Isaiah 58, 13, 1 to 14 says this. This is a Message version. If you watch your step on the Sabbath and don't use my holy day for personal advantage, if you treat the Sabbath as a day of joy, God's holy day as a celebration, if you honour it by refusing business as usual, making money, running here and there, then you'll be free to enjoy God. I don't think I need to read any more. That's a pretty powerful message, isn't it? That's a pretty powerful message. If the musicians like to come up, that'd be great. I've spoken about lots of warning signs today, and I hope you take them on board. If any of those, or a majority of those, you resonate with, can I encourage you to make a change? So as a recap, what do we need to, some of the warning signs about burnout, what do we need to think about? We need a day a week to rest from unpaid work, paid work, excessive use of your phone, your emails, or excessive use of social media, excessive use of anything that consumes you. That could be watching movies or playing video games. Excessive study, I know students, that can be really hard. Excessive viewing or listening to stuff, would it be the news? Things that make you angry or stressed. And we need to remember to rest our bodies, recharge our minds and emotions, and renew ourselves spiritually. Like an inventor knows best how their creation works, God knows what we need to keep us functioning and in good health. While some might consider the fourth commandment as being a bit of a burden, Jesus actually said the Sabbath is a gift made for our benefit. So let's treat it as a gift and not a burden. What do you do with a gift? You don't leave it wrapped up on a shelf. You unwrap it. You engage with it. I encourage you to unwrap this gift and to engage with it. If you are new to the church or visiting for the very first time, can I encourage you to fill in one of the welcome cards that you received as you came in this morning? Up and coming services. Sunday the 1st of September is Father's Day. And what do we do on Father's Day? We have Cafe Church. So please think of something yummy to share in the middle of our service. There'll be no Rev Kids program or Youth Connect during this service, but there will be an interactive message for kids and a message from Pastor Bruce Langford. On Sunday the 8th of September, we'll have our service of celebration with Rev Kids program and speaker Pastor Kathy Pittman.
This Father's Day.